Everybody knows the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China was built to stop the Northerners from attacking the Chinese people, and that is why it was 8,800 kilometers. But it seems like building walls in China is something they're very good at, because they actually do need a new one. This time is not because of the barbarians that keep attacking them, but the reason is the desert is moving south every day, and we're talking about the Gobi Desert. When the desert starts attacking the Chinese land, they are much more dangerous than any northerner that ever attacked them. We could say farmland is very rare in China, and even though the size of the country is pretty similar to the United States, but only 12% of its land is suitable for farming, and for the US is 52%. Because of the desert, the 12% is at risk as well, and every day this demon keeps moving south. But this is very normal for any type of desert. If you let a desert go, it will keep expanding itself. Everybody knows that China is the most populated country in the whole world. And after years of struggling, they're finally able to feed their people and not actually starve to death. And one of the main reasons is that they're using all the 12% of farmlands they have available to them. But it's not just the 12% of land. They also have a lot of technology in greenhouse farming. And one of the most common places you'll find these greenhouses is in the Xinjiang area. Xinjiang is a very dry and desert area, and it's extremely hard for that land to be fertile. But with the technology of farming indoors, the Chinese have figured out a way to get plenty of goods out of them. In these greenhouses, they have produce that are actually considered very high quality. Produce like tomato, onion, garlic, watermelon, and different types of melons. In the history of China, the most common cause of death was starvation. And finally, in recent history, they've been able to feed their people and not die from starvation like before. But they all of a sudden realize that a demon that's up north is moving south again. And if the people don't act fast and stop this expansion, most of China's land will be a desert. China's land doesn't lack deserts because they make 27% of its land. In the year 2006, the Chinese government was confronted with the very scary statistic, and they realized that each year, 1,600 square kilometers of fertile land is being lost to the Gobi Desert. There are plenty of different deserts around the world, especially the Middle East. But Gobi is considered one of the driest deserts in the world after Antarctica. And because of this dryness, there is a lot of desert storms that happen. Sometimes these storms are so extreme that they reach the nearby cities. And sometimes they even go farther and they reach Beijing, which is extremely far from the Gobi Desert. You could say in 2006, a very scary alarm went off in the Chinese government, and they realized if they don't stop this desert right then and there, not only will the Chinese people face mass starvation again, but their country will slowly turn into the Sahara. They basically came to the conclusion that they have to build a wall in front of this desert, but not a wall built with rocks and bricks. This is a modern wall. It will be built with trees. The plan that the Chinese government came up with was that we need to build a very strong wall underneath this desert. They predict that for this project, they need 100 billion trees to be planted, a project that might be finished in the year 2050. This wall is not the length of the Great Wall of China. It's going to be about 4,500 kilometers, but the real deal, it's the thickness, and you can't compare it to the Great Wall. China's whole country basically lacks forest, and it only makes up about 5% of its land. But when this project is done, the forest area of China will turn into 13.5%. As you know, the Chinese government is a communist totalitarian dictatorship, and they basically can choose people around the country for them to move in a certain place. For this project to happen, the Chinese government was forced to move millions of different people throughout the border of this jungle, and they are sent solely just to plant trees. They already named the forest they're building Louis Chongqing, which it basically means Great Wall of China. Well, you just have to add a green to it. Great Green Wall of China. Millions of people were sent here with their families, and they were given orders and equipment to make this project go forward. To basically start the border, they planted drought-resistant shrubs, and this could slow the sand down from moving forward. It is true that the people that were sent here were forcefully sent, but it seems like they were paid well because the people are happy at what they do. After they're finished with the drought-resistant shrubs, they plant different types of trees, and one of the most common one is the pine tree. You could say the people in these areas are very good at what they do. And what the government did is to put a manager in every sector, and their job is to manage everything is done correctly so they don't mess something up. So what stage are we in building this green wall? To the day we're recording this video, about 2.5 billion trees have been planted, and this number makes it the most amount of trees planted by one country. India is in second place in planting the most trees at 2.1 billion. But this jungle is just the beginning. Their plan is to reach 100 billion. Just like we said earlier, this project began in the year 2006, and with the amount of trees that have been planted, the Gobi Desert has slowed down, and in even some spots, it has started receding. They have recorded that by year 2021, the Gobi Desert stopped moving forward. About now, 13 million hectares of trees have been planted in China, which is the same size as Greece. Even though this project is not near the end, but it's considered a successful one. Not only has it stopped the Gobi Desert, but in the areas that the trees are being planted, the weather and the climate has changed for the better. These trees has even caused rainfall to rise up, and that's one of the main reasons the desert stopped moving forward. But a lot of experts from the West like to point out the problems the Chinese will face. One of the biggest problems is that they chose mostly the pine tree, and their point is that if some type of pest that likes to kill pine trees hits that area, it could be detrimental for the man-made forest. You could say telling the Chinese government had its effects, because now they're planting all types of trees. These trees has put a positive effect in the areas they have been planted, but not Beijing. As you know, Beijing is one of the most polluted cities on earth, and after these trees were planted, it stopped the northern winds from flowing into the city, and it caused Beijing to get more polluted because there's not that wind flow to come and take some of this pollution away. And that wind flow is being stopped by this great green wall. Even with the problems, the positives weigh out the negatives by a mile. Right about now when we were making this video, when the jungle is not even halfway done, but it's still the biggest man-made forest in the whole world. One of the greatest places that they could do this as well is in the Middle East, because most of this area is turning into desert.